Saki shows the team the first draft of their packaging design, but Yumeko still finds the design plain. She feels it needs to stand out more. Although the others brush off her opinions, Saki still decides to pass her comments to the design team. As everyone returns to work, Saki asks if she has already bought a thank you gift. Yumeko realizes she completely forgot. Curious, she asks Masakiko and Yutaka what they personally enjoy receiving as gifts. Masakiko prefers practical items like neckties or socks, while Yutaka is particular about what he wears but admits he would appreciate anything if it came from someone he liked. Yumeko wonders what kind of person she used to be before her memory loss. She acknowledges that she probably isolated herself because of her beauty, but her teammates explain that they knew almost nothing about her. Her past self barely spoke, avoided eye contact, and carried almost no presence. Saki even recalls that Yumeko didn't pay much attention to skincare or hair care. The truth stings a little, but they quickly add that she was never difficult to work with, citing things like how she was reliable, diligent, never late, and almost never made mistakes. Yutaka compares her to air, which Yumeko proudly interprets as a compliment, deciding that her past self was like the air while her current self is like the sun. Feeling grateful, she thanks her team for looking out for her in the past. Later, Yutaka suddenly announces that he is taking a short break to refresh and gather inspiration. This makes Yumeko wonder whether she had a special spot. Determined to find it, she begins exploring the building, roaming through different floors in hopes of sparking a memory. The size of the building overwhelms her and she begins to lose hope. Eventually, she reaches a floor that is completely dark. She peeks inside and notices that the space appears unused. Just as she's about to leave, she feels a memory resurface and Kisuke happens to be in it. She decides to wander around for a bit. A door suddenly creaks open, making her panic, but she quickly realizes it's Kisuke. He explains that he's only there for a coffee break. Yumeko smiles and shares that she's been walking around in hopes that something might trigger her memory. A look of concern appears on Kisuke's face as he asks if she happened to remember anything. Yumeko admits she caught a glimpse of what she thinks was a memory, but the image was so quick. Kisuke suddenly takes her hand and tells her to follow him. Yumeko forgets her original goal for a moment, feeling a flutter of excitement. He brings her to an abandoned lab. He says the place holds a lot of memories because he, Hiroki, and the old research and development team used to spend late evenings working here. Kisuke opens the blinds, revealing a stunning view of the entire city. Yumeko is amazed, and Kisuke tells her the view is beautiful at any time of day, especially during sunrise. He shares that because his old team often worked late into the night, they frequently ended up watching the sunrise together from that window. He then sheepishly admits that he and his team created many strange products back then, such as traditional dessert-flavored potato chips that didn't taste very good. Kisuke grows nostalgic as he talks about how much fun he had during those days, even mentioning how he and Hiroki constantly argued over the smallest things despite Hiroki being much younger. He becomes a little self-conscious, aware he's getting sentimental, and apologizes to Yumeko. He then tells her that he had once run into her here a long time ago. He had bumped into her, causing her notebook to fall to the floor, and it flipped open to a page showing some of her product designs and plans. Kisuke recalls asking if she was part of the planning division, and she had quietly confirmed that she was. He told her it must have been fun working in the planning department. However, Yumeko simply grabbed her things and ran away from him. Kisuke admits he might have felt unusually close to her, since he normally doesn't talk to other employees. He mentions that he didn't see her again until their recent meeting about the chip idea. Yumeko realizes that the moment Kisuke spoke to her past self was probably the moment the old Yumeko felt for him. She looks back at the view and tells Kisuke that some things still remain the same. She points out that the view from the window hasn't changed and will always lift his spirits. She adds that she is sure she still thinks fondly of him as well. She quickly catches how romantic her words sound and hurriedly clarifies that she meant it purely as a friendly sentiment. Kisuke takes it in stride and thanks her. She feels good about today. She learned that people noticed her even back then, and that she had a special place on the 8th floor of the office. When Yumeko returns to the planning office, Degawa from the design team suddenly demands to see her. The moment she spots Yumeko, she calls her a lazy fat bum, prompting Yumeko to look around to see who she's talking about. This annoys Degawa, who grabs her face and scolds her. Degawa says Yumeko has no sense of aesthetics and relies solely on taste testing as an excuse to eat snacks. Her words fly over Yumeko's head, and Yumeko defensively argues that she actually eats 3 full meals a day and snacks on the side. When Yumeko angrily asks who Degawa even is, Saki pulls her aside and whispers that Degawa has been handling their packaging for years. Degawa then challenges Yumeko to repeat her feedback, and Yumeko does exactly that. She explains that while the design looks nice, it's easily forgettable. Her potato chips deserve better packaging because the product is unique. Degawa feels her patience slipping. She claims that people who aren't designers don't understand the amount of time and effort they put into their craft, and how others constantly demand more from them without knowing what they go through. She complains that she's being treated like a maid at this point. Yumeko explains that she isn't mocking designers. Degawa looks at Yumeko as though she's been personally insulted. She declares she will no longer work on the project and tells them to find a cheap designer willing to do all their work. Hiroki tries to step in and explain Yumiko's sudden bluntness, but Degawa refuses to listen, saying the design team's conditions are never taken seriously. Yumeko then notices how Degawa speaks to Hiroki as if she's superior to him, making her curious about the nature of their relationship. Panic spreads across the planning division. TT Designs is the only team they can afford, and any other designer would charge a fortune for a rush job. Hiroki tells the team he'll try to persuade Degawa again, but advises them to focus on what they can still accomplish. Yumeko suddenly announces she will design the packaging herself. The team hesitates, knowing Yumeko has no background in design, but she insists because she caused the trouble. She runs to the display area, showcasing their past products to gather ideas. One particular design catches her attention. She realizes it's one of Degawa's, complete with a note explaining the inspiration behind the concept. The next day, Degawa drags herself sleepily to work. Her thoughts drift back to Yumeko, whom she has grown to resent because of her overly confident behavior. When she arrives at the office, her boss mentions that Hiroki called again and even offered to adjust how they send job orders. Even so, Degawa refuses to take the project back. Then she spots Yumeko entering the office. Yumeko walks up to her confidently and announces that she created her own design and wants Degawa's opinion. She shows her drawing and Degawa immediately dismisses it as terrible. Yumeko looks disheartened and admits she knows it's bad. She apologizes for her careless comments the day before and mentions that she found some of Degawa's old designs in their archives. She tells Degawa that they were beautiful and that she genuinely hopes Degawa will reconsider working with them because she really wants her involvement in the project. To Yumeko's surprise, Degawa agrees to return to the project, so she grasps Degawa's hands in gratitude. As Degawa asks for more details about the revisions, she realizes Yumeko has fallen asleep. Eventually, Degawa manages to extract the concept from Yumeko well enough to begin reworking the design, though she feels troubled because it somehow sounds even vaguer than before. Her coworkers suddenly gather around the office television, where a crew is scouting fashion enthusiasts on the street. Degawa glances at the screen, mildly bored since all the girls featured look nearly identical. Then Yumeko appears, instantly stealing the scene. Even Degawa can't help finding her incredibly amusing. Inspired, she gets an idea for the new design. The next day, she waits in the lobby of Yumeko's office. When Yumeko comes down to meet her, Degawa presents the finished design. Yumeko's eyes light up with delight as she declares the design perfect. Seeing Yumeko so happy makes Degawa suddenly feel guilty, prompting her to apologize for her harsh remarks about Yumeko's weight. Yumeko brushes it off, claiming she understands jealousy because she has an amazing figure. She then expresses her excitement to show the design to Kisuke. Degawa is startled to hear his name. When Yumeko asks if she knows both Kisuke and Hiroki, Degawa admits they used to be friends until Kisuke ruined their friendship. She tries to steer the conversation away, but Yumeko insists she needs to understand for her own sake as an employee, and she promises not to repeat anything. Degawa eventually gives in and explains that she met both Hiroki and Kisuke 7 years ago, and she often clashed with Kisuke because of his brutally strict approach to feedback. Their first product, a dessert-flavored chip, was launched, but they were soon told it would be discontinued due to poor sales. Hiroki apologized for letting her down, but Kisuke told them all to wait because he intended to create something truly successful next. Kisuke passed out after drinking too much, and Degawa complained that Hiroki was being too soft on him. Hiroki simply said that Kisuke was the most upset about the failed product because he had put the most effort into making it work. Hiroki also mentioned that Kisuke and Degawa were similar and that he hoped Kisuke could continue working as freely as he did at the time. Yumeko is charmed by the image of Kisuke being so bold and eager at work. She also finds it strange that Hiroki had such high hopes for him, considering Kisuke was the one who supposedly ruined everything. Degawa continues, explaining that things began to unravel when Rikako joined the company. She met Rikako during a meeting and learned that Rikako and Kisuke knew each other from the same university club. Kisuke even seemed irritated to be working with her. Hiroki also appeared less than thrilled about being responsible for Rikako, yet Degawa found their dynamic cute and promised to work with all of them to create great products. Over time, the four of them grew close and even met after work to try snacks from other companies. One evening at Hiroki's apartment, Rikako confided in Degawa about not having any female friends at the office. She thanked Degawa for treating her normally despite her being the owner's daughter. Rikako then admitted she might have to quit soon due to an arranged marriage being pushed on her. She confessed she disliked the idea, especially because she already loved someone else. Before Degawa could respond, the boys pointed out that it was getting late and Hiroki offered to walk Rikako to the station. Degawa noticed how close the two of them were becoming and later confirmed their relationship through Kisuke. Not long after that, Rikako informed Degawa that she was pregnant with Hiroki's child and feared how her father would react. Degawa encouraged her to tell the truth, insisting her father would eventually understand. She'd also promised to defend her if needed. Rikako brightened, grateful that Degawa was firmly on her side. Eventually, the relationship was accepted, and Rikako and Hiroki were married. Yumeko begins crying at the memory and asks Degawa to attend her own future wedding someday. She gushes over how pure Rikako and Hiroki's love story is, but Degawa states that something darker was brewing behind the scenes. Yumeko is confused by what Degawa means, so Degawa explains that Rikako took maternity leave to prepare for the baby and had planned to return to work once she adjusted to motherhood. But after Yu was born, Rikako was never quite the same. Degawa recalls visiting once to help care for Yu. She had noticed how exhausted Rikako looked and offered to speak with Hiroki so Rikako could take a break, but Rikako insisted she was fine, saying she had watched her own mother go through the same thing. As they talked, a message came in on Rikako's phone. It was Kisuke checking in on both her and the baby. Rikako then wondered aloud how different her life might have been if she had married someone like Kisuke instead. Degawa found the comment strange but brushed it off as fatigue. Rikako quickly grew more withdrawn and agreed with her that it was just her tiredness speaking. After that day, Rikako stopped contacting her. During a meeting at work, Degawa sat down with Hiroki to discuss the details of a new design. She noticed Kisuke wasn't present, which felt unusual. Hiroki claimed he had assigned Kisuke to handle something else. She'd also asked when Rikako planned to return to the office, but Hiroki admitted he had no idea, explaining that they barely spoke at home anymore since he slept in a separate room due to the baby's cries. Degawa scolded him, assuming he wasn't helping around the house and that Rikako was becoming overwhelmed. She urged him to pay more attention to her, but Hiroki abruptly dropped the subject and said that Rikako had Kisuke to lean on anyway. Frustrated, Degawa reminded him that as Rikako's husband, he was the one who needed to support her. Hiroki ended the conversation and walked out, leaving her with a growing sense of unease. After he left, Degawa could not shake the memory of her last conversation with Rikako about Kisuke, and her worry deepened. Hoping she was simply overthinking things, she decided to visit Rikako and hear the truth directly from her. When she rang the door buzzer at the apartment, no one answered at first. Degawa assumed no one was home and prepared to leave, but suddenly Rikako's voice came through the intercom. Degawa apologized for the unexpected visit, explaining that she only wanted to check in on Rikako and Yu. Rikako sounded distant but claimed everything was fine. Degawa asked if she could come inside, but Rikako refused, insisting that she and Yu were doing well, but she could not entertain Degawa at the moment. Degawa left with a heavy heart. She realized she wasn't worried about Rikako's marriage. She was heartbroken that their entire group seemed to be falling apart. She then spotted Kisuke rushing toward the apartment building. Curious and uneasy, she followed him and managed to catch up to him just as he was about to get Rikako to let him in. She demanded Kisuke to explain himself. Kisuke didn't give her a direct answer, only saying that none of this was Rikako's fault. That was enough for Degawa to understand that he was hinting they were in a relationship. Hurt, she threw her gift for Rikako at Kisuke, declaring that she never wanted to see his face again. Still shaken, she called Hiroki to inform him about Kisuke and how Hiroki should talk to him. But Hiroki calmly confirmed that he already knew about Kisuke's visits. With a heavy tone, he asked Degawa not to involve herself in their problems. Degawa tells Yumeko that she had felt miserable back then, but now it's no longer her business. Yumeko gently insists that they're probably just going through a rough patch, saying they can still resolve their problems. She points out that Kisuke never actually confirmed an affair with Rikako, and that Hiroki still clearly loves her. She's certain Rikako still loves Hiroki too. All they need is to talk things out. Yumeko also adds that Hiroki probably didn't want Degawa involved because he didn't want her to get hurt, since she is an integral part of their group. Just then, Yumeko gets a call from Saki, reminding them that the deadline for the package design is only an hour away. Yumeko tells Degawa that she needs to head back to work, promising she'll do her best to make their product a huge success. She reminds Degawa to stay hopeful that one day their group will come together again and enjoy each other's company like before. She holds out her pinky to seal the promise. Degawa smiles and links hers with Yumeko's. When Yumeko reaches the elevator, she finds Kisuke already inside. They chat, and Yumeko casually mentions that Degawa made their package design. She excitedly shows him the artwork, and Kisuke is surprised since Degawa had never created something like that when he was in the planning division. Yumeko admits that the first design didn't match her vision, so she asked Degawa to revise it, leading to the final version they have now. She explains that Degawa wasn't thrilled at first, but they eventually worked it out. Kisuke smiles at the story and tells Yumeko that she's just as talented as Degawa because she managed to bring out Degawa's best. Yumeko beams at the compliment, briefly wondering if someday she might even get offers to coach people. Kisuke laughs at her good-natured optimism, remarking that it feels like Yumeko has a solution for every problem. Then something crosses his mind. As if acting on impulse, he suddenly grabs her arm, trying to ask her for a favor. His grip is tighter than he realizes, and Yumeko winces from the slight pain. Startled, Kisuke immediately lets go and apologizes, embarrassed by his sudden reaction. Yumeko reassures him that she's fine, she just wasn't expecting it. When she asks what favor he wanted from her, Kisuke looks at her again, surprised by how bright and hopeful she appears. Guilt swells in him and he pretends he's forgotten what he meant to say. Yumeko notices the sadness in his eyes. Even though she wants to ask, she holds herself back. Instead, she tells him that if he remembers, he can always come find her. The rest of their elevator ride is spent chatting about anything and everything. Yumeko quietly wonders whether Kisuke's actions are all to protect Rikako, because he genuinely loves her. When the elevator reaches Kisuke's floor, Yumeko calls out before the doors close, asking if they can still meet at the park tomorrow now that the project is nearly done. Kisuke smiles and agrees. Yumeko feels a renewed determination to understand Kisuke better so she can help him, though she wonders when he will finally open up. Once she reaches her floor, she pushes those worries aside. By the end of the day, Yumeko trudges home completely exhausted. The thought of tomorrow's wrap-up party and seeing Kisuke again lifts her spirits a little. Then she remembers she still needs to buy him a present. Pulling out her phone to search for the nearest department store, she suddenly feels lightheaded and decides it's better to head straight home. The next morning, she wakes up feeling terribly sick. She tries to get ready anyway, but while going down the stairs, her legs give out and she falls. The loud thud sends her parents rushing over. They find her collapsed at the bottom of the steps, burning with fever. They try to lift her, but she's too heavy for them to manage. After several failed attempts, her mother grows frustrated and scolds Yumeko, saying she needs to lose weight. Her father, more level-headed, suggests bringing down a mattress to the spare room so they don't need to lift her upstairs. Meanwhile, Kisuke is already waiting at the park. He checks the time and realizes Yumeko is running late. He considers sending her a message but decides against it. He heads to the office since it's getting late. At the building, his assistant immediately walks beside him, briefing him on his schedule for the day. As the elevator rises, Kisuke finds himself stopping by the planning division instead of heading straight to his floor. When he opens the door, he overhears the staff discussing that Yumeko is down with a high fever. They talk about how she had been losing sleep ever since the project began and must have finally pushed herself too far. Kisuke feels a knot form in his chest. At home, Yumeko slowly wakes, realizing she's in one of the spare rooms. Her mother enters just in time, asking how she feels. She places a set of clean clothes nearby, but Yumeko immediately asks about work. Her mother explains that they already called her office and that she had a fever of over 39 degrees, so there was no way she was going anywhere. Yumeko's thoughts immediately jump to Kisuke waiting for her at the park. Before she can worry further, her mother insists she try the ginger poached pears she prepared. Yumeko sits up and takes a bite. Her eyes instantly water as memories from her childhood return. She tells her mother about the nostalgic flavor and thanks her for making it. Her mother, looking embarrassed, tells her to get better quickly. As Yumeko happily eats, her mother watches for a moment, then sighs. With her back turned, she mutters that if Yumeko plans to be a gem, like she once claimed, she'd better recover soon so she could shine. Yumeko suddenly yelps and her mother spins around in worry, only to see Yumeko holding out her plate, asking for seconds. Her mother takes the plate and grumbles that she'll skip the honey this time because of Yumeko's weight. Once she leaves, Yumeko giggles to herself, enjoying the rare affection she's receiving. Back at the office, Mocha quietly hands over a slip of paper with Yumeko's address to the planning division. She reminds them that accessing personal information is against the rules, but she's worried about Yumeko too. They hurry toward the exit together, but Hiroki spots them and stops them, asking why everyone is leaving at the same time. They try to insist it's simply the end of the workday, but Hiroki orders all of them to stay since he has a favor to ask. Back with Yumeko, she checks her temperature and realizes she's still running a fever. She notices it's already 7 in the evening and feels a little guilty for missing the wrap-up party. The doorbell rings and she wonders if her family is expecting guests. To her surprise, her mother lets her office mates inside and they all file into the room where she's resting. Yumeko tries to sit up, but they insist she stay lying down, explaining that they all came because they were worried. Saki even mentions that Degawa sends her well wishes. Yutaka then hands her a stack of papers from Hiroki, a list of wholesalers for her chips. Yumeko is stunned by the sheer number. They explain that Hiroki requested the sales team to triple their efforts in securing wholesalers for the product. He also told them to remind Yumeko to get well soon since overseeing sales will make her workload even tougher. Saki complains that Hiroki's gift is still work-related, but Yumeko genuinely appreciates it. She knows Hiroki has a soft spot behind his stern exterior. Masakiko then adds that they brought something for her too. Yumeko sees the package labeled with her favorite dessert and immediately reaches for it. She opens one of the cups and savors the sweet treat, grateful after only having pears all day. She begins giggling and admits that, despite everything, today turned out to be a good day. She thanks her team for making it special. Later that evening, Yumiko prepares for bed in her own room. She notices her fever has finally gone down and hopes she'll be well enough to return to work tomorrow. She checks her phone and finds a message from Kisuke. He had reached out to check on her, followed by another message containing a photo of the cityscape from the old lab. Yumiko is amazed at how beautiful the view is. Kisuke adds that she should rest well, reminding her that lack of sleep is the skin's worst enemy, echoing the first thing she ever said to him after losing her memories. Touched that Kisuke still remembers that moment, she opens her notebook and tells her past self that she is loved and valued, and that she only needs to hold on to see how cherished she truly is. Motoki first asks whether Kisuke is heading home or planning to visit Rikako again. Kisuke avoids the question, insisting that it's none of their business. When the detectives press him about his frequent visits to Rikako, he explains that they are friends, so it shouldn't be unusual for him to check on her. Motoki counters by pointing out that their meetings are hardly ordinary, considering they take place in luxury restaurants. Kisuke brushes them off as stalkers and prepares to leave, but Motoki shifts the topic to his relationship with Yumiko. Kisuke answers that he simply enjoys talking to her. Motoki then suggests that aside from that, Kisuke must also be anxious about Yumiko regaining her memories. Kisuke admits that he is concerned, but only because he wants her to be well. He tries to step away again, but Motoki stops him with one last request. Motoki asks to see Kisuke's shoes, claiming he wants to check the brand. Though suspicious, Kisuke reluctantly shows him one. Motoki inspects it carefully, especially the size. Once satisfied, he lets Kisuke go. After Kisuke leaves, he asks Shunzenburo to confirm the Japanese equivalent of a size 43 shoe. Shunzenburo responds that it's a size 27, precisely one of the sizes found at the crime scene. The next day, Yumiko wakes up feeling refreshed now that her fever has finally passed. She greets everyone she meets on her way to work, excitement growing with each step since it means she can meet Kisuke at the park. Her phone chimes and she sees a message from him. Kisuke asks her to meet at a cafe instead. When she arrives, he immediately spots her and calls out so she knows where he is. They settle into a small cafe with only a few customers. Kisuke apologizes for the sudden change of plans and explains that the detectives seem to be following him. Yumiko turns pale at the thought but tries to brush off her worry. Kisuke reassures her, saying he chose this particular cafe because he can easily keep track of whoever enters and leaves. He then invites Yumiko to have breakfast since the cafe is known for its good bread. When they go to the bread racks, Yumiko immediately begins to drool, her stomach grumbling at the sight. She then spots yakisoba bread and excitedly points it out. Kisuke is puzzled, unable to recall ever telling her that he likes that type of bread. Yumiko tries to conceal that she learned it from Yu by casually commenting that Kisuke looks like the kind of person who enjoys yakisoba bread. They return to their table with the bread they selected, settling in to enjoy their breakfast. As they eat, Yumiko brings up a topic from a recent conversation with her team about gifts they would like to receive from someone of the opposite gender. Curious and hopeful, she shyly asks what kind of gift Kisuke would appreciate. Kisuke answers that he would prefer receiving sweets. He explains that he would feel guilty if someone gave him something expensive or handmade, but sweets are something he enjoys and even useful for product inspiration. His sincerity catches Yumiko off guard and she feels herself falling deeper for him because of his answer. Kisuke then asks if she is planning to give a male friend a gift and casually remarks that she must have many friends aside from him. Yumiko freezes, unable to find the right words, torn between wanting to confess the truth and fearing she might ruin the surprise. Kisuke wishes her luck, saying he is certain her friend will appreciate whatever she chooses. His kindness only makes her heart ache more, especially knowing he has no idea how much she admires him. She studies him quietly after that, her thoughts drifting toward Rikako. She wants to ask him directly, but hesitates, afraid of the answer. During lunch, Saki remarks that Yumiko should simply ask Kisuke about Rikako if she wants answers, unaware of the specific people Yumiko is referring to. She comments that the whole scenario seems strange, then wonders how Mocha would feel if Yutaka were secretly meeting another woman. Mocha responds that she wouldn't mind. To her, a meeting isn't necessarily a date. Yutaka could be catching up with an old friend or attending something work-related. She explains that she doesn't want to become a burden by demanding reports from him and believes that not knowing something harmless wouldn't hurt her. Saki envies her maturity, admitting she would rather know every detail if someone she liked were seeing another woman. Yumiko listens to the two of them, realizing that while she longs to understand Kisuke more deeply, there may be parts of himself he is not ready to share. When Saki asks what she plans to do, Yumiko says she's content with how things are for now and hopes Kisuke continues to enjoy the moments they spend together. Saki gives her an uncertain look, pointing out that it sounds like Kisuke is taking advantage of her. Yumiko insists she's only tolerating things for now and that once they are official, she'll make sure Kisuke finds her completely irresistible. Saki and Momeka giggle at her boldness and even comment on how naughty she is, which causes someone at a nearby table to choke. Saki then shifts the topic and asks if Yumeko has already decided on a gift for her date. Yumeko shares that she plans on getting him pudding. Mocha suggests getting some from Orion. But the moment she starts giving directions, she and Saki both realize that Yumeko has absolutely no idea where the shop even is. They decide to tag along, and after work, the three head to the shopping district. They browse accessories and makeup, enjoying the rare chance to unwind. Yumeko is drawn to a dress but learns from the sales lady that it only comes in one size. She cheerfully reassures the woman that her body is unique and doesn't conform to standard sizing. Saki eventually steers them back to the mission, and they manage to buy the pudding for Kisuke. On the way out, the girls chatter about their purchases while Yumeko silently cherishes the moment. She realizes her past self probably wouldn't have enjoyed girl time like this. She thanks them out loud and admits she's decided to ask Kisuke directly about Rikako. Her friends look worried, but Yumeko reassures them that she needs clarity so she can move forward. She feels certain she can handle whatever answer he gives, knowing she has Saki and Momeka to lean on. The three share a hut before deciding to cap off their night with some drinks. As they head toward the bar, they pass a luxurious hotel and wonder what kind of wealth one must have to even step inside. Just then, they spot Kisuke stepping out of a limo, and beside him is a girl he's escorting. Mocha and Saki tense, wondering if this is the same girl from the rumors, but quickly conclude it can't be since Kisuke isn't acting cautious or secretive. That ease convinces them that the girl must simply be his girlfriend. Yumeko grows silent, clutching the gift she bought as her heart cracks at the sight of Kisuke guiding another girl toward the hotel. She follows her friends with heavy steps, unable to focus on their chatter. When Mocha stops by a convenience store, Saki finally asks if she's alright, noticing how downcast she's become. Yumeko insists she's fine just as they spot Yutaka and Masakiko passing by. Saki immediately invites the two to join them for drinks, saying they never got to have a wrap-up party. Yutaka tries to decline, but the moment Mocha returns, he changes his mind and agrees. They then remind Yumeko not to overwork herself since she just recovered from a fever, assuring her they can always go out another time if she's not feeling well. Moved by how considerate they are, Yumeko feels tears gather in her eyes. She forces her worries aside and chooses to enjoy the moment, announcing that she's ready to celebrate and that she's starving, her stomach rumbling right on cue. Meanwhile, at the hotel, Rikako downs a glass of wine while Kisuke gently urges her to slow down. Her father approaches, brushing off the concern and insisting that Rikako should have anything she wants, even if her doctor disagrees. He explains that she struggles with her mental health, and he refuses to deny her comfort. He then instructs Kisuke to stay the night at the hotel with her. Kisuke initially refuses, worried about Hiroki, but Rikako's father snaps at him, not to mention Hiroki, since he blames Hiroki for Rikako's condition. Unable to defy the company president, Kisuke reluctantly agrees. The next day, Yumeko heads to the park to meet Kisuke. He sends a pin location deeper inside, and instead of taking the proper paths, she decides to follow the map directly to get there faster. This results in her crawling out from beneath a bush, startling Kisuke. She cheerfully explains that she had to go on a little adventure to reach him, and Kisuke begins shaking with laughter at her unexpected entrance. Yumeko quietly savors the sight of him laughing so openly. They settle into the nearby seats, and she takes a moment to admire the peaceful surroundings. Kisuke apologizes for changing the meeting spot again, but Yumeko tells him she enjoys the spontaneity. She then offers him the bag of pudding, telling him it's a small thank you for treating her to dinner the other day. Kisuke accepts the bag and asks if the gift has anything to do with their discussion about gifts yesterday. Yumeko apologizes, admitting she had wanted the gift to be a surprise. Kisuke tells her that he actually loves pudding and wonders if Orion is a well-known brand. Yumeko confirms that it is, explaining that she learned about it from friends. She says she bought it at a shopping district near the Weston Hotel. The moment she mentions the hotel, Yumeko decides it's time to bring up Rikako. She reveals that she actually saw him yesterday right after he stepped out of the limo and asks if the woman he was with happened to be Rikako. Kisuke immediately panics and asks if she has regained her memories because she knows Rikako. Yumeko explains that she hasn't, but she saw a photo of Rikako because the detectives had shown it to her. She also admits she knows Rikako is the president's daughter and Hiroki's wife. Although she notices how suspicious Kisuke's reaction was earlier, Yumeko chooses to focus on the question that matters most. She asks whether Rikako is a friend or his girlfriend. Kisuke answers without hesitation that Rikako is simply a friend, filling Yumeko with relief. He explains that Rikako's father frequently invites them to dinner and that she is an important friend he feels compelled to protect. He is aware of the rumors about them, but insists their relationship is nothing like that. He confesses he is the only person Rikako can lean on right now, and that he contributed to the collapse of her marriage with Hiroki, so he looks after her as a form of atonement. Kisuke then admits he felt relieved and genuinely happy when Yumeko once told him they would remain friends even if he had been having an affair. After their conversation, Kisuke excuses himself so he can head to the office. Yumeko waves him off with gratitude, relieved that he was honest about Rikako and glad she feels him opening up to her more. She convinces herself that she cannot judge him for his past mistakes because she has her own shortcomings as well. At the office, Saki and Mocha meet each other just as Yumeko rushes toward them holding a scroll, announcing that Kisuke confirmed Rikako is only a friend. The three of them hug excitedly. Later, while working, Yumeko finds herself thinking about Kisuke again when she suddenly receives a call from Shunzaburo inviting her to lunch. At the restaurant, he informs her that they have confirmed the shoe prints at the crime scene match Kisuke's size. He tries to gauge whether Yumeko remembers him being present when she fell. Instead of responding, Yumeko grows frustrated and insists that many men share the same shoe size as Kisuke, and that Kisuke already told her he is not having an affair. Shunzaburo channels his inner Motoki and tells her that Kisuke would never admit it even if he were. Yumeko is startled by the resemblance and only then notices that Motoki isn't around today. Shunzaburo explains that Motoki is off for the day and wonders if Yumeko somehow misses him. Yumeko denies it, saying she was only surprised because he usually seems so dedicated to work. Shunzaburo agrees and mentions that Motoki only takes this one specific date off every year. Motoki is visiting his family's grave since today holds deep personal importance to him. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss new episodes every week.